AFTV, Turkish, another L, another defeat. We're only in February. We've lost 10 games this season. But again, another game where there's a dodgy referee incident in it. But then another game where questionable decisions from the manager and also the players not really performing on the pitch. I mean, what did you make of it?
It's another example of why, we need to take it easy this season and focus on the summer and make sure that enough pressure and enough is done this summer that this, is eliminated. It's not the first time, we've been deflated this season, but it won't be the last time either. It's up to us as fans to remain level-headed because, Rob, there's no pressure elsewhere in this football club, in this business, however they want to see it. There's no pressure. So I think that as fans, we need to take a step back and apply that pressure. So I think it's just another example of why we need to look at the bigger picture and, okay, enjoy the games as they come and as we win, but, make sure we don't forget that this is always around the corner because I was confident going into this game, Rob. For once, I thought the first 45 minutes against Wolves, I thought best 45 minutes of the season, best first half of the season, that's for sure. And obviously the referee and error judgment, whatever you want to call it, changed the game. So I thought this game will have something. Villa just lost at home to West Ham. But there was nothing there, Rob. They dealt with what we had well enough and scored early. And we didn't really do enough for me to say we should have got something out of that game.
What do you think it is? I mean, let's have it right. They defended very well, Villa. But why do you think we just didn't have the craft? It wasn't until kind of Odegaard came on.
Yeah,
I thought he looked lively, put a couple of decent cross. He put a nice through ball through one time. You could see he was trying to create, but we just weren't creating enough, weren't we? And we kept trying to whip balls into the box.
Yeah.
We got Tyrone Mings in there just eating it up. That's what he's good at.
I think it's the element of surprise, Rob. I think when you look at when our form picked up against Chelsea and then moving forward, the element of surprise was Emile Smith-Rowe, Saka being moved out on the right. At that time, Martinelli and more recent Pepe being moved out on the left. Those are all new additions, let's say. And I think teams watching us have got used to it pretty quickly and understand how now to nullify that threat, And we don't have backups that will come in or we don't have other players in other areas on the pitch that we can turn to. So when they nullify our biggest threat, which has only come about in the last 6 weeks in the front three behind the striker, it goes back to square one with Arsenal because
there was a strong bench today, though. There was on that bench. You had Martinelli on the bench who, for some inexplicable reason, didn't come on. Yeah. You had you had Aubameyang on the bench. You had Ceballos on the bench. That was the strongest bench I've seen for a little while at Arsenal.
Yeah, you can say that, but at the same time, how many of those players are in form? I know Oba scored a few, but in terms of confidence, I'm not sure where he's at the moment. Ceballos, I wouldn't say that's anything. Martinelli is surprising to me. I'm not really sure why he's been taken out of the limelight a bit. I think he should be getting more game time. Maybe it's concerning injuries and protecting him, because I'm one that says this season's pretty much done and dusted, Rob. So I don't want no major injuries moving into next season.
If 15, 20 minutes of the game, about 15 minutes left of the game, why are you going to, we want to win the game or we want to get at least a point out of it, right?
Yeah.
Why do you bring on Willian, a guy who's, let's be real, he hasn't done anything since the first game against Fulham this season.
Yeah.
He's been having a terrible time. He's not affecting games. What made Mikel Arteta think he was going to do it today? It was baffling.
We've seen managers die on players' swords before, Rob. The last two managers before Arteta died on players' swords. Too much faith in particular players. And with Willian, it seems like Arteta's got too much faith in him. Earlier on in the season, it was starting him non-stop. And now it seems like he's one of the go-tos in terms of impact off the bench. But we know that, Martinelli, for example, would give us a lot more off the bench.
He'd be a great impact player. It does make me start to think that is there a clause in the guy's contract? I mean, we do know that this does happen.
Yeah.
Clause in the contract that says he's got to play a certain amount of games, because honestly, that was baffling today. We was doing the watch along, and I think every one of us were like, "What?"
Yeah, everyone expected Martinelli to be warming up and coming on. It goes without saying. You see him on the bench, you always think, okay, with 20, 30 to go, if we're behind, that's a good asset to have off the bench. That I've got no excuses for Arteta. I'm not sure, and he needs to explain that, and a bit more ownership on the situation, because it's all good and well earlier on in the season, Arteta and Edu saying we need patience, but we're in February now. This is his 8th year in the league. The patience thing won't, justify those decisions. At the end of the day, you're right. When he come on, he could have made a greater impact. He might have had the same type of game, but at the same time, we would have understood a lot more if Arteta's making that decision and we go on to lose 1-0, 2-0. It's baffling what Arteta's doing sometimes, but other times, there's many pros and there's many cons. I just can't, nail it down to the manager yet, because I know and expect what I just saw. I think we've all got to become used to this, because it is the normal for us now.
And there was again another huge refereeing decision in the game again, where it appeared like Lacazette had been pulled down in the box. The cameras clearly showed afterwards it should have been a penalty, but for some reason it's not.
Forget the penalty for a sec. What about Saka? Because he was off, against who got the yellow cards last. He was last man. Whoever it was in the first half, he was last man. And Saka already made 2-3 yards on him up. That showed that he was off. He took a touch. It wasn't the best, but it was in front of him, and he got clipped. That's a red card, Rob. That's a denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. I don't understand how they got to that decision, let alone the Lacazette one. Because like you said, it's right. When you look at the replay, just on what they've done this season, that's a penalty. But we go back to the FA, Rob. Why did they rescind Bednarek's and they wouldn't rescind ours? Because our one changed the whole complexion of the game. Bednarek's was at 6-7-0. So to them, they'd be telling the world, we fucked up. We are the reason behind that result. They don't want to do that, but they need to start doing that, because every person, every employee, every living being should be open to being critiqued and judged, especially when you're being paid for it. And it doesn't seem like they are. It seems like they're well protected. They don't have to answer to anyone. If you talk about them, you get fined. And when they do give results like it hasn't been rescinded, there's no reason behind it. They're Teflon. Yeah. They're Teflon. The refs are just there, bulletproof shield.
Yeah, listen, I can't disagree with what you're saying there. And you're right. There was that one. There was also, I think it was Konsa. He'd already been on a yellow card again, put another really heavy challenge in from behind on Saka, which all day long, that's another yellow. I mean, we don't want to moan about these things. We don't want to say these things have affected the result, but they kind of do, because we saw it the other night against Wolves, how a game can change when somebody does get sent off or when there is a penalty. You know what I mean?
100%. Because listen, against Wolves, we had all the momentum. We had the better of the first half. It looked like we was going to coast the rest of that game. That decision changed everything. Now, this game's a bit different. This game, it didn't look like we was prepared well enough. It looked like Aston Villa, done well in how they set up. But a decision like that can change the game in our favor. And it's changing it for not the right reasons, but you're right in making that decision. So whether it's nullifying your momentum in the first half like Wolves, or giving you an opportunity to claw it back like against Villa, these decisions, they mean something in the bigger picture. For example, let's just say we are 9 points off of top 4 right now. I'm sure we could all pick out 3 games this season, including today and Wolves already, where decisions have gone against us, and in reality it's the wrong decision. And that can change the perspective of not only fans and their loyalty and commitment to Arteta, but the club and where they are. So these decisions are so big overall that it can cost managers' jobs, it can cost players' reputation, it can cost a lot more. But it just seems like the only ones protected are the referees.
I've never seen a season where we talk about referees so much.
No, we need to have ex-footballers. We need to have ex-footballers in and around the VAR decision making, because the Luiz one, for example, an ex-footballer would say, no way. And they could be in the ref's ear and say, listen, we've just watched it. It's not a red card, it's a penalty. But when you're relying on officials who haven't played the sport, they don't know what contact does at a certain amount of pace. They don't know what it does. They don't know how to justify it apart from analytically. But sometimes you need to know football. You need to be in the battleground to know what a touch does or what a touch doesn't do. So I think ex-football, that might be something that needs to be, implemented somehow. But it just comes down to VAR is not the problem. The rules and the officials are. There's 3 facets to it, and those 2 need to get fixed.
Turkish, thank you very much.
Love, Rob.
Congratulations on the young Turkish that's arrived.
Yeah, come on, young king.
Today's show is sponsored by Profit Accumulator, the #1 match betting service in the UK. Match betting is different to gambling. With gambling, you bet on one side, and if that side loses, you lose. With match betting, you bet on both sides. That means no matter what the outcome, you're a winner. When you sign up to Profit Accumulator, they will walk you through the whole process of how to do match betting, and as long as you follow what they tell you, you cannot lose. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description right now for your free trial, and you can start earning some real cash.